going to get started. March 9th, 7 p.m., we're going to start the planning board meeting pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. This meeting will be conducted in person and as a courtesy via remote means in accordance with applicable law. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless required by law. Public input. The public input shall be limited to statements from the public relating to any issues with the jurisdiction of the Chelmsford Planning Board that are not currently the subject of a pending public hearing before the Planning Board. The public comment on any pending public hearing shall only be heard during such public hearings. The call-in number is 929-205-6099, and you can go to the town's website for all that information. First up, do we have anyone for public input? I don't see anyone, no one on Zoom. Okay, then we will go to number one. We have an A&R, 670, 14 Kelshire Road, Malavi Kang and Visut Noon. Request for endorsement, exchange of land between lots.
Sure. Ready? Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, members of the board. For the record, my name is Brian Melissi with Whitman and Bingham Associates. Here representing Esau Nuwan, who has put a approval not required plan in front of you. This is a fairly straightforward land swap between number 14 and number 12 Kells Hill Road. Just as a quick bit of review, Mr. Nuwan went in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals. He wanted to put up a garage, and where he wanted to place it and the way the lot was configured, he needed a variance. We applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and not to put words in their mouth, they felt very comfortable granting the variance. So he went to Plan B and went to his neighbor, and they talked about it, and they provided we drew up a land swap in which we're going to pretty much steal from Peter and pay Paul. What this would allow him to do is put up the garage in the spot that he wanted without a variance. None of the frontages were swapped. It's really just a little bit of land swap in the back. It doesn't create any nonconformities on either one of the lots. I'm here for any questions, but it is fairly straightforward.
A nice neighbor, too.
Absolutely.
We'll bring it around the board if you have any questions. Start with Henry.
I have no questions. We have the frontage. Typical A&R, that's all we're looking for. Good.
Yes.
No issues.
No issues here? Mike?
No, I'm good.
Is Deidre on Zoom? Do you see? Or Erica? Erica, do you have any comments or questions? All right, if I see nothing, can I get a motion?
I would move that we approve this A&R.
Second by?
Second.
Second by Henry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Great.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you for your time.
Next up is an A&R, 671 Barnes Terrace, Incorporation. Request for endorsement to create separate lots from the existing Lot 2. Yeah, of course.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay,
we may want to combine the A&R with the paper sheet.
okay.
Yeah, we do have letters on this.
Okay, do you want to go ahead, Nance?
Sure. Let's see, the first letter is from the fire department. Dear members of the board, Fire Prevention Office offers the following comments regarding the proposal for subdivision and private way improvements at Barnes Terrace. There are no fire hydrants indicated on the plan other than a hydrant that currently exists on Elm Street. This hydrant is approximately 800 feet from the furthest proposed dwelling. This office requires a hydrant within 500 feet of all structures. This office noted that no fire apparatus access and turning plan was submitted with this application. This office is unable to assess the adequacy of fire apparatus access at this time. It is noted that the existing centerline radius at Barnes Terrace is 40 feet, where the minimum required turning radius for CFD Ladder 1 is 48 feet 6 inches. I spoke to the project manager, Seth Donahue of Dillison Roy Civil Design Group, by telephone and relayed the Fire Prevention Office concerns. Mr. Donahue indicated that he would provide a fire hydrant on site and an updated fire apparatus access and turnaround plan that uses an AASHTO Bus 45 template in its design. The applicant must apply to the Town of Chelmsford E911 Committee for house addresses through its coordinator, Town Clerk Tricia Zuris. Upon receipt of acceptable updated plans that include a hydrant and adequate apparatus access turnaround, the Fire Prevention Office can provide further comments and/or endorsement of this proposal. Second letter is from the Chelmsford Water District. Dear board members, the Chelmsford Water District has a concern with the proposed water service size to each dwelling. A representative for the project should contact the Chelmsford Water District. Once the contractor has met with us, reviewed and accepted our requirements, we will forward a signed approved letter to you. In addition, the Board of Water Commissioners, upon approval of the proposed project, would request the following 3 to be part of your order of conditions. 1, water is for domestic use only. 2, water-saving devices should be utilized throughout the facility. 3, xeriscape landscaping should be implemented to minimize water usage. Chelmsford, Richard Tansino, Distribution Manager, Chelmsford Water District. Third letter is from Chelmsford Police. Regarding construction of Barnes Terrace off Elm Street, extension of a private way for 2 new lots, Paper Street construction. Chief Spinney, the Division of Special Services, has received site plans from the Chelmsford Planning Board regarding the development of 2 new single-family home lots on Barnes Terrace. Barnes Terrace is a private way in the town of Chelmsford, located off Elm Street. Upon careful review of the plans and a site visit on March 4th, I make the following recommendations relating to traffic and safety. Installation of a street sign for Barnes Way at the corner of Elm Street. Signage at the corner of Barnes Way and Elm Street that indicates number 20 and number 24 Elm Street are located down Barnes Way. Both dwellings are approximately 550 feet down Barnes Way, and this signage would be beneficial for emergency responders. The submitted plans call for improvement of the existing roadway, which is currently in very poor condition, as well as the installation of a typical stop sign at the corner of Barnes Terrace and Elm Street. I agree with both of these stipulations. I have no further concerns relating to this project as submitted. If you have any concerns, please do not hesitate to contact me. Respectfully submitted, Lieutenant Jason M. Poore. The next letter is from the Board of Health. Dear Planning Board members, this letter is about Barnes Terrace off Elm Street, extension of a private way for 2 new lots, Paper Street construction. As the Chelmsford Health Director, I want to inform you that the percolation tests for possible septic systems were completed at the 2 proposed lots on July 27, 2021. The percolation testing has been approved. Percolation testing may be conducted at any time of the year, and the data obtained in accordance with the procedures specified by 310 CMR 15.000. may be deemed valid for an indefinite period, provided the soils within the site evaluated remain undisturbed and unaltered. Prior to moving forward with the septic system application permitting process, the Health Department will need to ensure that the approved testing pit sites have not been disturbed or altered. Sincerely, Susan M. Rosa, Health Director, Chelmsford Board of Health. The next letter is from the Department of Public Works. Dear members, this office has reviewed the subdivision plans by Dillis and Roy, dated January 27, 2022, and a stormwater analysis dated January 27, 2022. As a result of this review, this office has the following comments. This department shall be notified when work on site is to commence in order to arrange for inspections. 2, the stormwater report was missing some critical information and was not reviewed by this office. A full review will be required. Any revision to the drainage system shall be submitted and approved by this office. 3, a stormwater operation and maintenance plan shall be followed as described in the report. Copies of any inspections or other reports done in accordance with the plan shall be forwarded to the engineering office. 4, a site as-built shall be provided upon completion of the work on site. As-built to include a letter from the engineering stating that all stormwater devices have been built to satisfy Mass stormwater standards. Provide all supporting documents and calculations. The as-built shall be from a ground survey and submitted in AutoCAD and paper form. 5, confirmatory soil inspections shall be performed in the area of infiltration per stormwater management guidelines. Inspections shall be completed by the Chelmsford DPW Engineering Division. All unsuitable material, if any, discovered in the excavation for the infiltration system shall be removed and disposed of in accordance with state and local regulations. 6, the sewer moratorium imposed by the Chelmsford Department of Public Works that became effective on September 15, 2020, applies to this project. Since the moratorium is applicable, they are required to install septic systems. 7, a bond for the private way is recommended in the amount of $10,000. 8, this office recommends that no restrictions are placed which would prevent further subdivision of land for future development along this private way. 9, a road opening permit is required from the Chelmsford DPW Highway Division for work within the Elmsford Street right-of-way. 10, trench permits shall be filed as necessary per 520 CMR 14.00, Chapter 82A. 11, the design engineer has received design and drafting review comments from this office. If you have any questions, please contact this office at 978-250-5228. Sincerely, Christina Papadopoulos, Town Engineer, Town of Chelmsford DPW.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening, board members. My name is Seth Donahoe with Dillis and Roy Civil Design Group. We were the project engineers and land surveyors related to this project. I appreciate the summary of the letters, and I have had a chance to review all of those. We've submitted 2 applications to you tonight, actually, an A&R plan and a private way improvement plan. Is it all right if we speak with them concurrently?
Yes.
Great. So I'll start with the A&R plan. Barnes Terrace is an existing private way, and we are proposing the division of Lot 2, which was created in 2019. Your board actually endorsed the A&R plan for that. Barnes Terrace extends roughly easterly off of Elm Street, and then it has a almost 90-degree bend in it where it goes to an unimproved portion of it. Presently, approximately 400 feet of the road is paved or suitable for vehicle passage, although as been noted in the letters, it's fairly disrepaired at this point. So we have proposed to create Lot 2A and 2B from the existing Lot 2. Both of those exceed the requirements for the Residence B zoning district as they have an excess of the frontage and area required. And we've also proposed to improve the length of Barnes Terrace, both the existing damaged portion and also extend that through the axis of the two proposed lots. As noted in the review letters, these lots will be serviced by septic systems, which we've completed testing for. Barnes Terrace is presently essentially at grade through what's more or less a hayfield right now. There are no stormwater controls incorporated in that, so our plan for the private way improvements is to bring it into full compliance with both the state and town's requirements for stormwater management. We'll be collecting the stormwater runoff via catch basins, and that'll be discharged to a low point, which is down gradient on proposed Lot 2B. The benefit of this is that this area is down gradient of the abutting houses as well. So we'll be infiltrating all of the runoff in an area that will improve existing conditions as well. We have requested some waivers, as was noted. A lane would require 22 feet of paved width. We're proposing an 18-foot paved width. In discussions with the fire department, they were okay with that, and that allows us to mirror the smaller road that is there and maintain some of the aesthetics of the site as well. And as also noted by the fire department, the existing layout of the private way provides for a 40-foot center line radius. We have requested a waiver to work within that, to keep that radius of the road. And we'll be providing the fire department with a turning exhibit as requested to demonstrate that their ladder truck can actually work within this small development. If there's any questions specific to the application, I'd be happy to stay up here and address those.
Okay, thank you. Bring it around, Henry.
So we got two, two things here. We got an A&R, which is frontage and
Yep.
stuff, which is pretty easy to get around. As far as the other aspect of it, we're basically building a small subdivision here. I would have a hard time with us approving it without the fire department and all those letters being solved. I don't think is a huge issue. We have no idea. Did you see any landscaping at all? Any view?
That's all there is.
Yeah.
This isn't a plan.
That just, it's a little bit of lacking in that aspect. I'm not ready to vote on it tonight, but moving on.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking at this, and what I'm seeing in terms of the submitted data is probably adequate for an A&R, but it's certainly not adequate for a subdivision plan. There's not enough information here to evaluate. So I think I would recommend that we put this forward and give the applicant time to.
Like, I'd like to see where the house is gonna lay out.
Yeah, exactly, and the drainage plans and, the landscaping plans and the whole thing. This is subdivision, this is not just A&R.
I think, if I can interrupt, there's actually two plan sets. One's a multi-sheet plan set that includes all the roadway
I don't
improvements,
have-
house locations, driveways, a lot of the information that you're looking for. The A&R plan is exactly that. It shows the configuration of the lots with the meets and bounds. And I'll also note that it is our intent to fully address all of the comments that we've received. Some of them have been over the last couple days, so we did not have time to put together a
all
written
right.
response for tonight, but we certainly will do that.
So this is actually 2 items on our agenda,
That's correct.
and there's data under each of them.
That's correct, yeah.
I would like to see, how would you feel about paper plans on these things here, like this last one we just got, because pulling this up,
Well, let me bring it around still. Mike?
Yeah, I'm wondering why this is in here as an A&R and not simply as a subdivision.
Yeah,
It's both. I think the primary reason is that it's coming in as a paper street. So the paper street, not to get into any legalese, we provided some email correspondence in the agenda. Paper street is previously laid out and approved, just not constructed. So the A&R is probably the simplest form to create the new lots. But they need to go hand in hand.
Okay, and an A&R can work against a private way as well as against a public way,
Yes.
frontage?
The frontage that's proposed, the frontage that is proposed to be created would qualify for frontage under A&R access.
Anything else, Mike?
No, I get the feeling we want a little more information here, but
Mike Walsh?
All my comments have been addressed, and so this is going to be a private street.
Correct.
They're not going to try to get town approval.
No, and actually, our cover letter fully acknowledges that. It has a statement in there that this is a private way. It is to be maintained as a private way and privately funded for all the maintenance associated with.
Deidre's joined us on Zoom, and Eric is still on Zoom.
Okay, Deidre, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I feel like I need more information about the subdivision part of it, as has already been stated. So I guess I don't necessarily envision A&R, but it seems like they're going concurrently. So I might prefer to just push it out to another meeting when we can get the requisite clarification on the points from fire, et cetera.
I think we caught that. It's a little hard to hear with the ocean behind you, but,
All right.
so,
I think we need a little more clarification, and so I don't necessarily have a problem with the A&R, but it seems like the two ideas are concurrently running, so I would rather push it out till we can get further clarification.
would you have a problem pushing this out a meeting to get the other
If I
information?
could just turn to my client real
Yeah.
quick and see if, is it okay to extend things to the next meeting?
If you don't mind standing up, you can just say your name.
The reason we took the A&R approach is actually Barn Terrace was laid out and approved by a previous planning board as a subdivision. It meets the requirements of approval of a subdivision under state law. So it is in fact a subdivision itself, and that's the reason we took that venue.
Okay.
But continuing is fine too.
You guys still need more time to have and answer the questions from the departments inside.
Does that mean that we already have an approved subdivision here? Evan?
No, the lots are not created, but the roadway, Barnes Terrace, has been
So the roadway was created for
right of-
a
the right of
subdivision,
way.
but it was not subdivided?
correct.
Okay.
And the road is partially built but not completely built.
Yeah.
Right, that's why it's coming in as a paper street.
Okay.
Christina, are you happy with the engineering on this thing is meeting stormwater? I mean, I know they said it's improvement, but it's a hayfield, which is basically a big filter. So, yeah, you're making stormwater, but you're,
So I have provided the design engineer with a list of things that I'd like revised on the plan.
yeah.
He received it, and sure, is there anything you have a question on?
No, and
Bertha? Okay.
the town engineer was very kind. There was some jumbling of
Put it
the
off.
documents, and
We
I
have a
believe
plan.
we've given you everything related to the pre and post analysis at this point, but it was late in this process, so
No
hopefully she
problem.
has.
So
Yeah.
if it's all right with you guys, we'll put it off. You guys can get that together, and then we'll come back, and, I mean, we
Yeah.
don't see any issues with it, just correct those issues, and
We'd be happy to address those. And when would you like to see us again?
whenever you'll be ready.
2 weeks, isn't it?
2 weeks is, yeah.
2 weeks works for us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for
All
your
right,
time
thank
tonight.
you.
So before the board continues, I believe there are people from the public.
Have them speak, sure.
They want to provide input.
Okay, is anyone here from the public?
Is this a public hearing?
No.
It's not a public hearing, but I believe there are people here.
Is there anyone here?
Subdivision plan?
For an A&R?
Maybe
see
they're just
For
here to
an
listen.
A&R, it's not, but for a sub,
Nobody's here?
Okay.
should be.
All right.
There's a motion to continue to...
2 weeks out, second,
Now, is 2 weeks correct? Today's the...
March 23rd.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, next up, 9 Acton Road. Continued public hearing. Request a special permit per Article 22 Village Center Overlay Districts, 195-124C, 195-25B, Table 2, and Section 195-104. Site plan review and Article 23 Inclusionary Housing Bylaw as applicable for the construction of a 22-unit multi-family townhouse development with associated site improvements and any other zone or relief that is deemed necessary. The site is in the VCOD Village Center Overlay District and consists of approximately 57,264 square feet, as shown as in the Assessors Map 84-336-19. The revised plans showing 18 units and updated architectural elevations and floor plans. All right. Thank
Good
you.
evening,
Good
Mr.
evening.
Chairman, members of the board. My name is, for the record, Philip Iliopoulos. I'm an attorney here in Chelmsford with offices at 9 North Road. We've been pretty busy the last few weeks, I think almost a month since our last meeting, continuing to work on the board's concerns, work with the abutters, try to see how we can make the project work, get everyone's concerns met as best as we can. And we came up with sort of two proposals. One is sort of the roughly the same 20-unit proposal that we had submitted a month ago. And then the other is a 18-unit project that would, I think, accomplish what the boards, or several board members have expressed an interest in, as well as still being able to provide some needed buffer for our direct abutter on Acton Road. So I'll let Katie talk about, we can kind of walk you through the plans. My feeling is that the abutter, who's here tonight, I believe, right? Is I think going to look towards the 18-unit plan as the plan of preference. So we could go either way, and we're just trying to, I think, figure out a way to make the project work for everybody. The way we're able to accomplish, just to be upfront, the 18-unit project is by making each unit slightly bigger. I think they're about 2 feet bigger, which is not dramatic, but it gives us a little bit more revenue in those units to offset the part, not all, but part of the loss of 2 units. The other thing I just wanted to kind of touch upon was a concern that was raised at the last meeting about whether or not, from a tolling standpoint, we're still in good standing with our determination of applicability.
Yep.
I'll submit, I've got a couple of copies, actually, I can probably submit a couple of the copies now for the board. Basically, if you look at the, when the board determined applicability was in February of 2000. And if you go to the bottom of that decision, it says, this finding of applicability shall be valid for 2 years. So February of 2000, 2 years takes us to, sorry about that. 2020 takes us to February of 2022. So that's the 2 years. So finding of applicability will be valid for 2 years from the date the board votes this decision, February 2020, within which time frame applicant must submit an application for final approval. So we would have had to submit the application for this project by February of 2022. We actually submitted it in September of 2021. So
Perfect.
with that, so that takes care of that issue. Now, we could go into a whole thing of tolling, even if we did it after that, but I don't think it's applicable. I borrowed some of Paul Haverty's statutory references to the tolling, but again, we're not even in tolling. We're within the 2 years that we applied prior to February of 2022. So I think that takes care of that issue. But you've got a legal opinion that kind of flushes that out. And I've attached a copy of your vote, which was the February 2020 vote that lays out that 2-year timeline. So I don't know if there's any questions on that piece. I know that was a question. I just wanted to kind of get that off the table for us.
Sounds good to me. Anybody else? Any questions on that specific item? No. I think we're all good on that.
All right, so why don't I let Katie come up, kind of walk you through, you can hear if there are any
Perfect.
abutters, and then we talk about where to go from here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. Katie Enright with Howard Stein Hudson. The first plan in your packet is the first plan on the screen. This is the plan that we submitted at the last meeting and we discussed at the last meeting. I kept it in here just as, what's that?
I think they're talking back there.
Oh, okay. Just to make sure that we can kind of have a reference as to what we're going to and what we came from. At the last hearing, we heard comments related to snow storage, parking, and also still the number of units. And then also we heard that the residential property setback to the rear units, we'd still had those at 20 feet, where we had moved the front units to 56 feet away from the Fitzgibbons property, that was problematic in the back. So we went back to the drawing board and came up with the plan that's shown here. This is an 18-unit plan. Sorry, it's not as pretty as the first one and colored in.
It's right there.
Right in front of you.
It's page
It's the one
2.
that's second in your packet also. Yep. So what this plan did was was deal with some of the questions and issues we had at the last meeting. So we've reduced the number of units to 18 units. That was something that we heard from multiple members of the board regarding density. At a previous meeting, we had heard that the units seemed small. So what we were able to do in incorporating also the other comments was look to add about 2 feet in width. What that does is it adds a little over 250 square feet to the living space of each of these units. So it brings us from a previous living space of, it was about 1,367 square feet, that's not including the garage, to 1,620 square feet of living space, not including the garage. And the garage itself is a little bit bigger too, because what we've done is essentially the units were already 32 feet in depth. They were 18 feet wide, and now each of the units is 20 feet wide. But what we did in working with that, we didn't just go to 20 feet wide. We had to really work on what that meant for setbacks to our residential abutter to the west, and also what that did to snow storage, parking, the area of the playground, et cetera, throughout the lot. So we kind of backed into the 20 when really kind of looking at or the 18 units and the 20 feet wide based on, really trying to maximize that front and back setback to the residential abutter to the west. So this plan shows 46 feet on both the front and the back unit. On that side, we've left the easement in place for the walkway, as that's part of your master plan for the center village, to have that walkway there, but we heard from the board, we're not really ready to extend it anywhere quite yet. So we'll leave the easement in place, but that area essentially becomes green space in addition to the green space that was already on that side. And we're able to extend the snow storage right around that corner. We moved the playground back to the rear, but it's significantly further from the brook as the previous location of the playground area, and the playground is intended to be fenced, so you can see how that sits now next to unit number 1. It's the same size. It actually is a little bit bigger, I believe, than the previous one. This is a 20 by 25 foot fenced-in space. We also were able to better kind of distribute the parking, and the parking next to units 4 through 9 would have reserved spaces next to them. They do have one garage space inside. In the plans that we'll submit that we develop further after this meeting, each of those will be signed as a reserved space for each of those units, and it's the secondary space for each of those units. There's also additional parking on this plan, so the parking requirement is 40 spaces that are required. This plan has 46 spaces, so we have 6 excess spaces over zoning requirements on this plan. We were also able to capture 20% of the paved area and snow storage area, so just footprint area itself. I did some research to see what I could find for sort of a ratio of snow storage, and what I found was an article that talked about a 20% area of the paved surfaces that are being snow plowed be put aside for snow storage. So what you see on this plan as labeled snow storage areas equals over 20% of the area to be plowed within the lot. As part of this, we also changed the front walkways based on a comment that we heard at the previous meeting to consolidate those, which lessens the amount of pavement also. So those capture pretty much the changes in the layout. There's a significant amount of engineering that goes into this plan, so we wanted to bring this to you tonight and discuss this layout and see if it made sense based on this new configuration, hear back from the board, if it made sense to leave this meeting and move forward with the entire site plan package with the details within it, to come back at a meeting in the future to finish the discussion on this project. So with that,
Okay,
turn it back over.
thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm very sorry. There is also new architecturals that we submitted that are in the plan set. I almost forgot. Let's see if it'll let me move forward one. It's the next plan in the set is the pretty picture of it. It's not gonna let me, doesn't want me to move forward right now. Oh, here, let me try this. But basically, all the plans are in here that show the layout of the new 20-foot wide units, and what it does is it shows the transom windows on all units. It made sense to do that when the architect spoke with our client. They decided on all end units, the transom windows would allow sunlight in, but obviously not allow people to kind of look out at one another or look out onto their neighbor. So that's just a kind of a pretty picture of what that would entail. And all the plans behind there are the additional plans that were submitted as part of that. So then, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
That is the end of my presentation.
All right, excellent. I'll bring it around the board. Mike?
First of all, I'd like to say thank you. You've addressed all of my issues with the project, so I think it looks good. I just have a couple of questions. You can clarify. So along the neighbor's property, to the north, I think it is, right? To the east, excuse me, to the west.
The west.
Are we leaving all of those trees in place now, the mature trees? What's the plan for that?
Yeah, they're actually off of our property.
They are, so
Yeah.
all that will stay?
All that
And you're
stays.
replacing a fence there, my understanding?
And we're also putting in arborvitaes on our side of that fence to help with, you know, anything in between, kind of the leaf cover from the other side and the top of the fence.
And then this is down the road. The units that have the transoms at the top, so this is a homeowners association it's going to be?
This is going to be
Condominium?
rental.
What is it? Yes, it'll be a condominium. So is it written in there that they cannot improve their home and build in full-size windows 5-10 years down the line? Is that written into the deed of the home?
Yeah, the condo docs would prevent any unit owner from modifying the exterior of their unit. So
They cannot change the exterior.
They cannot change that.
Okay.
The other thing that I should have mentioned before, because it came up, sort of how we're going to handle rubbish. So we did talk to a private rubbish company. They would supply enclosed bins. With the added width of the units, there's room now to keep those bins in the garage. And so we would put into the condominium docs that the rubbish bins couldn't come out until the day before, like the night before trash is due to be picked up. So if trash is picked up on Wednesday, it'll be picked up every week. You can bring your barrel out Tuesday, but that's it. It has to stay in the garage, so that we're going to prevent, you know, barrels from falling over, rubbish from going over. That was, I think, important to the condo association in the back. I'm sure to the Fitzgibbons as well. So that's how we're going to handle trash with a private company and write that into the condo docs.
Okay, great. But thank you for listening to our comments and you making those changes.
We're trying.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Mike?
No, I don't have any particular comments. It's been a long road to get here. Does anybody remember what the original proposal looked like?
Oh, yeah. Yes, a long time ago.
So, no particular comments. It's a lot of housing, but it's in many ways consistent with discussions that we've had.
All right. Nancy?
Yeah, I have no questions for the applicant. I do have some discussion. Nothing for the applicant at this time.
Okay. Henry?
Couple comments I'd like to make. It just, I know you don't have a landscaping plan yet. I know when these Center Village things were brought, we brought in really nice pictures. We showed everybody how there's gonna be beautiful trees in the front and everything else. My one comment is I'd like to see what the trees are gonna look like when they're planted. We're just installing, not what they're gonna look like 10 years down the road, because 10 years down the road only works if you water and fertilize them. It's the center of the town. It's important how this looks. My other question would be, I know he said 40-some-odd parking spots, but I see, get you counting the garages for the parking spots. Are we gonna have assigned parking spots for the ones that don't have a driveway? I don't ever remember us allowing garage spaces in this type of setting. I know we allowed it when you had the big building up on top and they had a parking lot. Parking garage, yeah. They're already talking about having the trash inside the garages. I own a property in Lowell right across from 1400, and they developed that much like this. And I see people parking on the road as it is at that point, because the garages get full. That's my comment.
Okay. Is Erica on?
She is on.
Erica, do you have any comments for 9 Acton?
Nothing that's different from what's already been said, so I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Erica.
Deidre's on. Deidre's on as well.
What's that?
Deidre.
Deidre?
Yeah, I actually would just like to say that I really appreciate you guys taking down the number of units and addressing one by one, from what I can see, all of the concerns we've raised, from the abutters to the trash to the snow storage, and I think it's, I appreciate your work to make things more in accord with what we could work with.
Okay, thank you, Deidre. Mike?
Well, first, let me comment that if these garages develop at all the way my garage is developed, you'll never park a car in it.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Well, they won't be
Maybe
able
some
to.
people do park cars
Right.
in garages. But that's not the important. The one question I did have was on this transformer. Now, is the location of that pretty much dictated by the power company, or is there any other reason that it's kind of stuck there in the front yard, and could it be tucked somewhere else?
They're going to put it where they want to.
Huh?
They're going to put it wherever they
Yeah,
want
well, that was kind of my impression, that they put it wherever.
or
they
wherever it makes sense to them.
Is there one there now?
I don't believe so. Not that I can remember.
Okay, that's.
All right, so it's a public hearing still. Anybody from the public would like to make any comments? Do we have anyone on Zoom, Evan, do you know? Anyone in the audience?
Yeah, you do.
Hi, Joe Fitzgibbons, 19 Acton Road. I just wanted to state thanks again to everybody, and we have no further input. But the only question we had was on the landscaping again, and I know it's been a busy week and a busy month. I don't think the fence is on that road, so yeah, that was the only thing we were looking for. I don't think on page 2, I don't think the fence, it's on there, but I know you've already talked about it and covered it. So, all right. That's it. Thank you much.
All right, thank you.
I have one more thing. We are expecting to see the full payload, correct?
I didn't hear.
She asked if we were expected to see the full pilot.
So, yes, so we're going from 20 units to 18 units. So, I don't know, I haven't calculated the PILO, because we're not at an even number now. 20, I think, would have been an even 4. One per 5 or one per 4?
For, it mirrors 40B, so this is ownership,
Yes,
so it's 20%.
20%, so 1 out of 5. So I don't know if, what the board would do for those,
We round up
yeah. Is that the bylaw they round up?
per 40B.
Always rounds up.
Okay. I didn't know if the board would, do any type of partial one for the 18, that we pay the full on the 16 and split the difference for the 18.
I mean, the board has the discretion and
You know
authority.
what I mean? Where it's an odd number. But that's something that the board could.
We can run that through and see what everyone thinks.
We do intend to pay the full pile, it would just be that it doesn't round.
Yeah.
Doesn't round out.
I don't have an issue with what he wants. I mean, it's just, you're getting what the neighborhood, we wanted less units, we got less units.
Right,
I think it's a reasonable request.
yeah. Mike, do you have anything on it?
No, I agree. I think they've come to the table, they've addressed every concern that we've had day one. I think the least we could do, if they're sitting at 4.5 technically,
Yeah,
then we pay the 4,
yep,
and that's my opinion.
okay. Mike?
I'm good with it. The amount of money that we're actually dealing with is not huge.
Okay. Nancy?
Um,
All right. Deirdre?
I don't quite, I don't know what we're talking about here, but I assumed what Phil was proposing is that they give us the value of the 4, and then they give us the value of the half,
Right.
instead of rounding up to the full 5.
Yeah.
Correct? Because
Yes.
it sounded like what somebody just said was the 4.
No, I said,
I'm not okay with the 4.
We
I'm
would meet
okay
in the
with
middle. We
4.
would meet in the middle between 4 and 5.
That's fine.
Okay.
I misspoke there.
Yeah.
I went to 4 immediately, but if the team wants to go 4.5,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
That was my request, 4.5.
Yeah, okay, I'm okay with that.
Okay. So we're going to close the public hearing. There's no...
No. My suggestion is we keep the hearing open.
Okay.
Yeah, so the way I understand this playing out is, the board has given, consensus that the 18-unit plan is,
Yep.
and now the engineer is gonna bring that to full engineering. My suggestion is we continue this to the second meeting in April.
The second meeting or the first meeting?
Sorry, can do the first meeting in April, which is the 13th.
Okay, when's the election in April?
The
The
5th?
week before that. I'm not concerned about the not having enough voting members, but from the date we receive the applicant's full civil engineered plans, we have to send that out to be peer reviewed.
Yep.
'Cause we're not going to be without a town engineer at that point. So that could take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I just don't know. Haven't been through that process before.
Okay. All right, so then a motion to, so when do you think the next meeting will be with
You
them?
want to go with the April 13th?
April 13th would be the second Wednesday in April.
Yes, the first
Yeah.
meeting of planning board for
Yeah.
the month.
Okay.
And I can put together a list, too, of sort of the condo, how we're planning to do the condo. One of the things we will address is parking. So within the condo docks, we're not going to let people park outside of the spaces, because
And how you can stop it?
the trustees, well, I lived at Scotty Hollow for a brief stint,
Yeah.
and they would ticket you, they'd say
Yep.
you were fined, they could.
Do you have rules?
They did
Yeah.
tell people, and so ultimately, how do you enforce any condominium? The trustees have to fine the unit owners, maybe you give them a warning, and ultimately you tow, because you can't have 20 people parking wherever they want, it just won't work. That's, condominiums, it works because you have strong condo docks, and everyone lives within them, and that's how you have kind of, as best harmony as you can. So those will be written into the condo.
So
docs. It has to be.
how many visitor spaces will you have labeled?
I think we said 6.
And how many handicap spaces are there in this development? Is there any? Okay.
But anyways, I'll include that as a sort of a list of things we'll include in the condo docs, like no changing the exterior,
Perfect.
rubbish, parking. And the width of the garage, we almost got it where you could put 2 cars in there, but it just would be too tight. But these garages are going to be significantly wider what you were thinking. And so there's going to be room for that too in there. But we'll address that all in the conference.
Okay.
All right? Thank you very much.
Did you have something?
Yeah, I do have something, but it's more for discussion for the board than the
Okay.
applicant.
Okay.
Do you want to talk about it now, or?
I would.
Yeah, I probably should. And it's just a concern that I have in reviewing the VCOD, in reviewing this application against the VCOD. So I know that the VCOD was written to give the planning board the right to override virtually everything in the overlay. And we have that right under alternative compliance. But in doing so, we really need to look at, does that alternative use, is it in keeping with the purpose of the overlay? Is it in keeping with the purpose and the goals of the Center Village Master Plan? And you know, I went and read the whole bloody Center Village Master Plan because I wanted to know. And then I went back and read the VCOD. And one of the things I was really surprised at was the role that the engineering organization for this project had in writing the VCOD. But the Center Village Master Plan really focuses around how to enhance the Center Village as a commercial district. And the VCOD, as one of its goals, includes protect and expand opportunities for small, locally owned businesses and other entrepreneurial activity that primarily, but not exclusively, serves local neighborhoods and surrounding communities. So in doing that, the VCOD created these frontage zones and ground floor limitations, and we've heard about those throughout this project. So it says buildings, the VCOD map includes frontage zones which are the contiguous land area along the primary public streets within the underlying CV district. This property is one of those properties. Buildings fronting and oriented toward these streets are targeted for commercial and mixed commercial residential use, mixed use. They have a ground floor limitation. You can't put residential within the front 40 front feet. Okay. Well, this project gets around that by pushing the project back 40 feet. But that doesn't mean that it meets the targeted for commercial and mixed use. And then I look at the use table, and I look at row houses and townhouses, which is what we're dealing with here. And they're permitted in the CV, except in that frontage zone, right? Cool. But we're going to push it back out of that 40-foot that is a protected area within the frontage zone. Only problem is, front yard setback for row houses and townhouses was set at 0 minimum and 15 max, which means that a row house or townhouse was not in any way intended to be a use pushed back 40 feet within a CV district. So by putting this type of a use in our limited commercial frontage zones, we're replacing the ability to have commercial in our downtown.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I wish you read that a long time ago. But not only that, I brought this up when we first had the first meeting, and I said to you guys, and I'm pretty sure you and Mike were next to me, that mixed use, because that's what should be down there.
That's right.
And I was told it would never work. It would never work. And there's tons of commercial vacancies, and, you know, so Then what happens is these developers, they work on what we say, and they went and they supplied us with this. It would have been something to bring up a long time ago. I appreciate you bringing it up now, but at this point right now, I mean, it's a mute after everything that's been put into it, right? That's how I feel. I mean, we've gone over this and over and
No,
over
it
and
has.
over.
So Tim, can I comment on that?
Sure.
So I think this property is this is a zoning conflict, which we're looking at on other things, right? We got CD right up against RB.
That's right.
And I think you need to have a transition. The first project that came through here was a large building right up against a single-family home. 100% zoning conflict. On that project there, if they put mixed use on that first floor, we wouldn't be here tonight.
That's right.
Because it would have been approved. And you would have had residents in this town going through the roof. This project, where they've come, and I appreciate too your comments, but I think they're late now, coming out at this point now. But, because we've gone, how many times are we gonna go around this?
Yeah.
I mean, this was
Yeah.
ready to be approved tonight.
Yeah.
Except for it's now being extended to April. However, I think this is a good transition. This goes from the commercial of the Dunkin' Donuts and the gas station in the corner there and the laundromat, and it transitioned to high-density residential. Route 27, Acton Road, is residential. The mixed-use portion of the CEIOD would never work on that street. There's no on-street parking. It's a tough corner. There's no parking in the back. So it's either one or the other, have the big project or have this. And I think this is the best of both worlds that we got. And I think we have to look at the zoning conflicts, and this has to be part of it. This should be out of that zone, that corner. It should be right at the end of of Route 27. When they extended this right up against because of that existing MOB, that office building that was there, a medical office building that was there, it was there for a long time. And so they tried to incorporate the zones, and I understand that. But this is the wrong project, the location right here for a mixed use. Otherwise, you would have that 3-story big building that they originally proposed.
Right next to the neighbor.
With offices down below, and no one would walk up there. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Well,
I agree with what Robin's saying. I think Nancy has a good point. I think it needs to be listed in the waivers that we're given this property. I think it needs to be brought out that it's a waiver that we're giving it. As she said, planning board's allowed to waiver almost anything in this zone. I think she's brought out something that hasn't been brought to us before as far as that goes, but I think we need to have our waivers listed if we get to an approval process. Now, as far as being ready to vote on this tonight, there is no landscaping, there's still some other issues that need to be handled. But yes, I think we're on the correct track.
No, but I also, let's bring it up, I think we all knew that what was supposed to be.
I understand, but in the legal,
Yeah, of course.
let's make sure it's in, because.
And I'm not saying
we
I
gotta-
disagree. I don't disagree with you, but I think we knew that from back when I brought the comment saying that we should do mixed use, but it wouldn't make it, is what we were told back then, like. So, all right, with that being said, does anybody else have anything? Deidre?
I would like to add that I agree with what's been said by Nan and also by you, and I think by Henry, and Mike Walsh. I mean, I think that we're looking towards making a move to have the properties in this be mixed use. And I think going forward, that should be a priority, that shouldn't be allowed to have a workaround, like this property was allowed to have a workaround. And, I don't know, Evan and I had a conversation about this a couple weeks ago, and basically his stance on it was there's very few properties left that this applies to. But I guess I'd like to say for any property that is left, or any property that's currently commercial on the bottom that could be potentially redeveloped as residential, I would like it to be in the future stipulated that we won't accept high-density residential properties, that it has to be business on the first floor. And I think that that workaround needs to be taken out of the zoning or the regulations or whatever. Like I guess we're working with NEMCOG, but I don't know when, and I don't know what our time frame is, but I feel like there's issues in the zoning that haven't been addressed, that are inconsistent, that need to be addressed. And this is one of them.
I'll just make a quick comment.
Sure, go ahead, Evan.
I love the conversation, definitely good for a work session. But, high level, no zoning, particularly in overlays, a one-size-fits-all. In the original drafting was exactly what Nan said. It was assumed that the board could waive the 40 feet. After it was voted at town meeting, the board asked town council to provide a memo. Town council indicated that under alternative compliance, the only thing the boards could waive were provisions within the table. Anything that was in the zoning bylaw itself, such as frontage zone, could not be waived. So, as originally intended, the board could have worked with a developer to create mixed use that was customized for the property. As we got into it, that's not how it played out. With all that being said, you can draft zoning to require whatever you want, but you're never gonna force a developer to do something that they don't want to do. So then you're left with, do you want to create zoning that just feels good and sounds good, or do you want something that the market really is interested in doing? Then you're left with a property like this. It's got a 30,000 square foot pre-existing non-conforming structure on it. So the zoning conflict exercise that we're gonna do isn't gonna solve these kinds of problems, because this developer or any other developer even without the overlay, under 195(8), pre-existing non-conforming structures, could have come to the planning board and said, I got a 30,000 square foot pre-existing non-conforming structure. I don't want to re-tenant it for commercial. I want to convert it, demo it, reconstruct it for residential. So there's multiple paths to get to, any one particular outcome. But I caution the board about trying to create a one-size-fits-all. Imagine if this property, which has a 30,000 square foot building on it, and not coincidentally, their total square footage, not including the garages, is 32,000 square feet. So I told you, you're not gonna find any developer who's gonna tear down existing square footage and build less square footage. The numbers just don't work. So you're left with, you want 30,000 square feet of commercial on that property? That's a Trader Joe's. The community wants a Trader Joe's, but they don't want the traffic. I agree with you. Terrible location for 30,000 square feet of commercial space. So the only other option is residential. And to your point, that's the whole point of the overlay. Transition. Multifamily townhouse provides a transition. The concept is solid. You can't debate the concept. It's the details that we all struggle with. How many units? Where are they located? What do they look like? But the concept of the overlay, it works because you can't prescribe a one-size-fits-all. At that point, you're not going to have any development. But I agree. I think this needs to go into work session. The bylaws are never perfect, but the situation in reality is not perfect either. We're dealing with properties that have been developed for 50 years. There's economic challenges. There's zoning challenges. There's abutter challenges and concerns, and then board challenges. But to your credit, I think this process played out the way you wanted it to, meaning you managed the process, you provided clear and direct, concise input. The developer had a nice team and they worked and listened, and the process worked. My point to you is adding commercial in here while the zoning may allow it, it may not be the right fit.
Right.
So that's the whole point.
We didn't have a developer bringing us a plan.
But even if you required it, you may find out that it's not something that you want or the neighborhood wants.
Yeah.
That's the concern with zoning. Flexibility and having an out, to me, is the key. But if you require it, you'll find some developer who will build it. But if you want to you want to encourage mixed use or require mixed use, drive down Route 38 in Tewksbury. They have a bylaw, an overlay that requires mixed use. And they've done a lot of beautiful projects. All of the commercial space is vacant. They can't lease it. There's no demand. And if there's new construction, it costs more. It's beautiful space, but it costs more. And whether it's Tewksbury, Chelmsford, Kingsborough, there's high vacancy rates with commercial space. So, you know, that to me, that needs to be understood and acknowledged. Just because you write something doesn't mean.
Right.
It's just good.
I think it's for a work
It's a
session.
good conversation for a work
Yeah.
session.
Okay, so. Would you like a? Now the developer's over there shaking his head going, what the heck? Motion to extend the public. We have the public hearing, we have to.
To continue until, what's the date that we're?
April 13th.
April 13th.
Second by Henry, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay,
Next item, there's a letter in the file requesting a continuance to March 23rd for Riverneck Road.
okay, do we, so the motion,
To continue.
okay.
Second.
Second by Nancy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just while we're doing that motion, we need to continue that to a place specific. We've been challenged with that during the Riverneck Road hearing. The reason we ended up here tonight is because McCarthy was booked for a stage production. We looked at, myself and Telemedia looked at the availability of McCarthy. It is available on the 23rd. I'll just try to provide some insight. While we all agree that 204 is probably the best place, logistically, the concern is if the neighborhood shows up and there's more than 30 people, 204 has a maximum capacity, nothing to do with COVID, of 31 seats. While 205 is designed and has been used for overflow, and there's big screens that can televise the meeting live, so it's manageable, but it's only manageable if and until the neighborhood or the public challenges that. So worst case scenario is we hold it at 204, 50, 60 people show up, half are in 205, they go to the mic and they challenge, they basically challenge the chair and the board that the meeting isn't, that it's not reasonable or viable.
Gotcha.
So we've tried to avoid that situation. That's why we're in these off-site locations.
Do you recommend the McCarthy then for the next meeting?
Yeah. As much as I'd like to be in 204, it's easier for Telemedia, it's more professional. I have continued to reach out to Georgie and Crystal Valley to try to gauge what the preference of the neighborhood and public is. To date, they've indicated that their preference is to hold it at a larger venue.
Okay.
At some point, maybe we can get into 204. The reason I like 204 is that it provides the board a better ability to engage with the public.
Yeah.
And with the proponent. McCarthy's it's just a challenge, and as you know, we get into peer review and public comment. It's manageable, but it's not ideal. So moving forward, we'll book it in McCarthy.
Yeah.
If things change in the neighborhood, thinks that 204 would be a better forum, we can always go to 204.
I gotta trust you on that. I mean, you're the one that's speaking with the public as well, so.
Okay.
All right, so that's that. New business, the sewer
The sewer moratorium memo, that was on there because I thought that's what Deidre was referring to. It's not. I believe what Deidre was referring to was a COVID-19 tolling memo that was discussed as part of 9 Acres Road. I have that. We'll get that stamped in with the file, have council review it. So I think that was the reason for that.
Okay. And then we did talk about doing a work session. Do we want to schedule something
Yeah, I also have, I would suggest you do schedule something. I met via Zoom with NIMCOG yesterday, and I'm going to meet with them again tomorrow to get that zoning map and land use conflict process teed up. So if and when you schedule either a work session or decide to meet at 6 or 6:30, we can bring them in for a regular meeting. That will be a multi-phased project with multiple meetings. The board's gonna have to figure out whether the full board wants to engage, or you wanna do a subcommittee, and, you know, how you wanna manage that.
So do we want to get through 9 Acton Road, Riverneck Road, and then schedule the work sessions? Maybe we could do it like,
I mean, if you're talking
I
completely
think
through Riverneck Road, like be done with Riverneck?
No, the bigger meetings, like you're,
Yeah, I mean, you're talking,
so we'll be in the...
that project also needs to be civil peer reviewed. I think traffic is likely the most prioritized. It's just not clear to me if traffic is resolved, the board needs to then figure out what's next.
All right.
Obviously, we go through the technical reviews, civil engineering, stormwater, but I think the board has a pretty good feel as to how those play out.
Would we have enough time if we allocated a half hour before meetings to do these, or no?
Half hour is not enough time with, not with NIMCOG. It may be enough time with some of your other items.
Okay. Well, what about scheduling it on an off week?
I'm okay with an off week, but at this point in the year, I would suggest that we wait until
Wait.
after elections.
Okay.
Yeah, no question.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll come back to this after elections, in someone else's chair. That sounds perfect. All right.
Well, I mean, how about if we schedule it for after the election?
What's that?
How about if we schedule it for
Yeah,
after
do you
the
want to pick a
election?
date, Evan?
Well, your regular meeting's on the 13th and the 27th. If you wanted to, you could do Wednesday, the 20th, that's right in the middle of school vacation, or you're looking at May.
Why don't we do it in a room?
You said April 20th you're looking at?
April 20th would be the week between your regular meetings. That's school vacation, though.
Yeah, I can't do April 20th.
Okay? So then you're into May. The regular meetings are May 11th.
Well, how about if we do it at 6 on the 27th?
6 o'clock? Yeah, that works.
On the 27th,
Yeah.
what? No?
I don't care, I won't be there.
Yeah.
It just means mom doesn't get fed.
Yeah, all right, so we're gonna be into May.
All right. Let's do the first weekend of May then, the first Wednesday in May.
Wednesday is May 4th.
Let's do that.
Special
Okay.
meeting, this is a work session,
I can do May 4th, yes. Paul, everyone's good.
and start at 7 PM?
Yeah, that's so far ahead.
Yes, 7 PM? Yes, 7 PM.
Okay.
All right, before we leave, I want to say congratulations to Christina, and thank you, and for everything. It's been a pleasure.
We're gonna miss you.
All right, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I got an appointment for from the AgCom for the master plan, what are we calling that committee?
Implementation.
Implementation Committee. I put Jamie Durgay on that.
Can you forward me the name? Was it Jamie?
Jamie Durgay, D-U-R, he's on something else as well.
Okay.
All right.
It's on the AgCom.
I just, when you adjourn, I just have one A&R.
Okay.
From the Moynihan, a couple of meetings ago,
All right,
for the board to sign.
so, can I get a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all.